Evening, America. Brian James Blem here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of What the Fuck's Up from this incredibly beautiful place. I'm all set up out here for a night of photography, and so it's going to be a little uncomfortable just hanging out and sleeping on the rocks, but that's fine. It should hopefully be well worth it. If you've never been here, you ought to come. If you know where I'm at, drop it in the comments. It's well worth the visit. But what do I want to talk to you about today? Well, I want to talk to you about sort of a follow-up of We the People USA Alliance's past podcast on Monday, right? We talked about the election management system and the subpoena that the Arizona State Senate served upon Maricopa County in 2021, following what we all know was the most corrupt election in the history of the world, right? Worse than Ukrainian elections, and those are pretty bad. But the subpoena demanded all election-related items, including the EMS system. The EMS is the election management system, right? And I've drawn a little chart here. So if you look at it, you can see that tabulators all connect to the EMS system, the election management system, the poll books, all the electronic equipment related to an election connects to this election management system, right? The election management system then stores all data relating to that election internally. And of course, I'm sure it auto backs up to some other system just in case there's a failure. Everything's not lost, okay? But Garrett Archer has been taken to the airwaves, and Garrett Archer and ABC News, they're not the news media, folks. They're puppets that are parroting a political line. They want you to believe something that is absolutely not true. Garrett Archer has taken to Twitter or X, and he's criticizing people like he always does. All he does is really come out and call you a liar. Liar, right? Or he calls you kiddo, something diminutive, right? To make you look small, almost like that son of his that he's always posting on X, you know, trying to pump out every penny of political value he can get out of that poor kid. And how his wife allows it, I don't know, but we've got, you know, all kinds of marriages in the world. But the election management system, right? He's calling everybody a liar, saying, oh, the data was archived, right? Here's what happened. The subpoena was served on Maricopa County. Maricopa County took it to court, which is the proper way to do it, right? If you oppose a subpoena, you go to court and you tell the court, oh, we don't think this is proper. And then the other side goes, okay, well, yeah, well, we think it's proper, and these are the reasons why. And the court looks at both sides of the argument and says A, B, or whatever, right? The court in 2021 said the Senate has the full power to serve these types of subpoenas, and it's a legitimate and a valid subpoena. So what happens? Somebody decides, we don't know who yet, but we know people who know who, that hopefully we'll be saying something very soon. But somebody decided that prior to turning the EMS system, the EMS server over to the auditors, that they would delete the 2020 election database. Right now, they claim it was archived. If you've ever seen the archive, let me know, because nobody I know has ever seen it. Right, and so there's a pretty good chance the entire 2020 election database is just gone. And so, you know, why would that happen? Why would they not want to present that data to Maricopa County auditors? Well, maybe they wish to hide something. And so that's kind of like Runbeck with their video, right? If they wanted to prove everything I've ever said wrong, all they would have to do is make public their video. All Maricopa County would do is to make public all of the records it's worked very hard to conceal and hide from the people in the state of Arizona, right? But here's how you know people like Garrett Archer are gaslighting you. Here's how you know. People like the members of the Board of Supervisors who testified in front of Congress are gaslighting you, right? When they testified before Congress, members of the Board of Supervisors said, oh, hey, we don't, we think it was deleted to make room for the next election, right? And when they were asked whether or not, why they would delete the 2020 data instead of the 2 previous elections that were on the system, right? They left 2 elections before 2020 election on the system and said, oh, we just deleted 2020 to make room. How do you know that's a lie? Well, that's a lie because on the day the data was deleted, intentionally, folks, somebody walked into that server room and hit delete. That's an intentional act. The day before it was deleted, Maricopa County officials and Garrett Archer knew that Maricopa County was going to turn the EMS server over to Senate auditors. They would not, therefore, have possession of the server, so they would need to purchase a new one or replace that server with a new one prior to the next election, right? And so they weren't going to have a server. They knew they were giving it up. Therefore, there was absolutely no need for them to make room on the server. It's an absolute lie, folks. They're gaslighting you, and they're all just, how many people out there actually get Garrett Archer as one of their primary news sources? If that's the case, I mean, you're in trouble. You need to start looking somewhere else, because Garrett Archer and ABC News, they are actually about the worst that I've seen in the state of Arizona. And, with that, I'm going to say, stop letting them gaslight you. Get out and see your beautiful world, and peace.